Hey y'all, welcome to Art of the Budget. Today we are doing a budget reconciliation for October 2020. If you're new here, my name's Nicole. My pronouns are she and her, and I live in the Pacific Northwest on the traditional unceded territory of the Coast Salish Nations. I just rearranged my living room again. I'm still not totally happy with it, but anyway, I don't really know where to be. Anyway, we're going to do budget reconciliation for October 2020. October was kind of an interesting month for me. I spent money in some areas that I don't normally spend money, and I'm just going to talk about some of the things that I learned from this somewhat unusual month at the end. But really quick, it's not very exciting. I'm just going to go over the sort of the good, the bad, the ugly of October. So in October, I've recently started this thing where I'm officially a month ahead. So I took my paychecks from September, and that was $3,067.57. And that's exactly what I made in September, so I put that in my budget for October. I'm actually going to change this in November and just do a base 3,000 to budget from, and that is because I like to have that little bit of like cushion. And I didn't have it this month, so that maybe might be part of my problem. So typically previously I was anticipating what I would make, and so I would leave that cushion, and I didn't do that in October. And I realized, at the end of the day, this is all kind of like mind games. So I think having that cushion will help me. I had $844 come in from interest on various savings accounts, and that's what I brought in. I had set out to share, so this is an area that I've been kind of having to crimp in a little bit, and I'm gonna try to get back to this. Ideally, this would be 5% of my income that I'm sharing. This is my radical intersectional feminism section of my budget. 5% of my income sharing, but that was not the case. I had planned for 100, and I spent just a little under that, 95.75. And then my 2% for art, I hadn't planned for anything, but I ended up on a somewhat of a whim buying a cup from a friend for $25. Scrolling down in savings, I didn't really put anything away except for that usual interest that I just chunk away. I just have this little bank account with $360.19. That's all interest. And I have this little section called next month, but it's just sort of doesn't go anywhere. And this is just where I record my paychecks. I realize I didn't record in budget check-ins my second paycheck, but it's pretty much the same as I made in September, $3,067.56. And again, in November, I will actually budget off of $3,000 just to give myself that cushion. All right, scrolling on down, my usual investment, I'm back up to $500 a month into my Roth. I'll be a little behind on maxing it at the end of the year, but I'm hoping that I can get that in there before tax time comes, so that 2020 is maxed. Most of this stuff was usual housing, daily living. I gotta say, where did we go? I went over in groceries and restaurants, but I was only $22 over in groceries, and I'd only planned for $200. Normally I plan for $300. I know it's very extravagant for some people. But for me, it works pretty well. Although groceries is definitely one of those areas that like I could spend any amount of money, either on stocking up on things or buying bougie cheese or whatever. I could spend it. So I'm actually finding that having a lower amount helps me do better. Like even if I go over, if I have a lower amount, I go over that lower amount. Does that make sense? Same in restaurants. So I typically would put $100 aside for restaurants, but I only put $50, and I was only $5.19 over, so not bad. In the kitty department, in the household department, I was over. I put aside, I think, 20 or something, 40. Oh, I have my notes right here. And I put aside 30, and I spent almost 50. I'm going to try to actually be a little more diligent about putting $20 in that every month. As you can see, this is a fund. I often don't treat it that way, but I'm going to try to be a little more diligent about doing that because I actually realize that I do buy household stuff in bulk, like toilet paper, dishwashing liquid, that kind of thing. But when I need it, right, I need it. So I'm going to try to be a little more diligent about putting that $20 a month in there. Same with the cats. When I reconciled things, I brought this down. I'd spent a little less than the allotted $250. I'm actually going to try to not do that and use that as a fund, so let that roll over. Scrolling on down, gas was pretty good, just a couple dollars under the 60 I had allotted. The fun category is where I went way over, and what is actually in this category wasn't just completely frivolous things. Not that there is anything wrong with a little frivolity, but I just feel like I learned some things from that category this month, and I'll talk about that when I'm through scrolling down. Auto stuff, insurance and tax was the same as always. So when we get to sinking funds, as you can see in a couple areas I was over. I had planned to put $295 into the cat fund, which is right here, and I was only able, because of that, to put $53.95. This is not great because I do need to take my cat to the cardiologist this month, so I might find that I have to dip into the emergency fund. We'll see. Of course, we'll see what the November budget looks like. But I need to keep that in mind, that when I go over budget, it's areas like this that are gonna suffer. And then there were a couple other things like tech fund. I had not planned to put anything in, but I ended up putting $22 in. And yeah, and then I had added this important stuff. So this was a down payment fund, but I ended up buying a bed, a mattress, and deciding that it just needed to come out of this renamed fund called the Important Stuff Fund. So here's what I learned this month. And let me know if y'all have experienced anything like this before. This for me anyway. I'm a natural spender. I'm not a natural saver. So this exercise for me, both doing my budget and sharing it on the internet, is a way that I stay accountable and a way that I stay constantly present. Like if I wasn't looking at these numbers every single week, I think I would just forget they were there. That's just the way my brain works. And so I'm constantly adjusting the budget. I feel like, if you go back 9 times out of 10 in a month, I'm like, I've messed up in some way, but I just keep plugging away at it. And I mean, the results are clear. I've made a lot of headway. This year, 2020, has not been the best, but hey, when I think of, 5 years ago when I had like no idea what my money was doing, I had $0 in retirement and I had no cushion, not one cushion. I'd never had a cushion in my entire life. Now I have $13,000 of a cushion, and that's not even, including that I actually have retirement investments now. So I just try to keep perspective like that. Messing up isn't failing. It's just re-tinkering things to fit the situation better. So here are a couple of things I learned. One, important things. As I mentioned in this budget check-in, I had put off buying a mattress for so long for a variety of reasons, and they weren't bad reasons. But at the end of the day, I needed to buy a mattress so that I could get quality sleep. And so in case you missed that video, my mattress that I was sleeping on was free. It was ex-romantic partners. And I felt like I didn't need to buy a bed for a long time, but when it really came down to it, I was having back pain, having trouble sleeping, having trouble staying asleep, and it really just became essential. Thankfully, I had been putting money aside for down payment, and I was able to use that money for a bed. Now, down payment is a worthy goal, but bed is slightly more important. So this is where this important stuff category comes in. So I'm going to keep that category for that type of thing and just put money in it when I can. I have sort of put these numbers here. Sometimes they change and they get a little bit meaningless, but I've decided to tighten this up and I put in like sort of what the goal amount is. So for important stuff, it's about $1,000. Will I ever get there? I don't know, but that's the goal. 2, sinking funds are awesome. So I had another like constant frustration for most of 2020, which is that my laptop was a little bit broken. And again, it was the kind of thing where like I could deal with it until I couldn't anymore. And thankfully I had enough money in my sinking fund for technology to buy a new laptop. And I also bought a hard drive, which is something that I'd actually been needing to do for about 3 years. So I got those things done. Thank goodness that money was there waiting to be used. That is how a sinking fund should function. I'm not always the best with using my sinking funds like the right way, but that was pretty ideal. 3, even though I identify as someone who, like, I literally do own like the 5 skirts that I wear every single day over a pair of leggings. I've literally owned for like 10 or 15 years, some of them. I keep things for a long time. However, something that I failed to realize is that I do need to replace things, including like leggings, including these basics. So I wear a basic uniform of leggings, a skirt, a shirt, a sweater, some, variety of that. And I do need to replace those things. I also need to replace things like socks, underwear. These things actually wear out and need to be replaced. So in this winter coat clothing fund, and like winter coat, I am going to commit to putting money in that every single month so that it builds up so that when the time comes that I do need to replace certain parts of my wardrobe, I can without having to feel like I failed. And then finally, something that I've learned about myself now I guess we're going to my 6th year of living in a northern climate. I'm a Floridian and I live in the Pacific Northwest. Look, don't at me. I know it's not the worst weather in the planet, but for me, it's, really different. And one of my coping mechanisms is thrifting in general, and thrifting for like warm, fuzzy things. Actually, this is like a really soft charcoal gray sweater with a weird Android thing on it that I bought for a few bucks at the thrift store when I went on my epic thrift journey this month. And I just need to recognize that. So you'll see in my November budget, I'm putting in a serotonin boost category. It's kind of like I've seen like over at Debt Free Millennials, they have like a treat yourself category. I think it's kind of like that. So serotonin boost, just sometimes, you need a little serotonin boost. And like for me, it's like the thrift store or like buying new dish towels or something like that. So I'm just going to accept that and plan for it. All right, let me know if you've had any epiphanies this month or just in general how your month has gone. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you.